a.m. I'll call this meeting to order. This is a regular school board meeting of the Oaks Public School District number 41. It's Friday, October 13th, 2023 at 7 a.m. We're meeting here in the Oaks Public School Central Office Conference Room and also via Zoom. All board members are present, as well as Superintendent Sal, Business Manager Jepson, and numerous guests in the room with us today. And so far, nobody joining us on Zoom. So let's stand and say the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The agenda was in your packet. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda, please? Heimbach moves, Sawyer second. Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say no. Motion passes. The agenda is confirmed. Welcome all visitors. Mostly staff and students with us today. Thank you for being here. Communication?
We had one letter from Mrs. German. I won't read that, but it was just thanking her for being named to the Hall of Fame. So very nice letter. Yeah.
Of course.
But I would like to read, I would like to read the shout out that we received. So this is the shout out. Shout out to the high school para staff who go above and beyond every day for students. OPS is fortunate to have such committed and caring staff. And I said that to them, but I wanted to read that out loud because, yeah, every day's.
I would also note that we had a very nice email yesterday from a stakeholder commending us on the process that we have been going through, indicating that she had been following and had watched our video, the video that we created with Rebecca Undum, and has been impressed with the process we're going through with our facilities challenges. Anything else to highlight in that area? If not, okay, Mrs. Roberts has joined us, but so is somebody being our time tracker since
Yeah, I kind of started writing it down and Shannon and I can both work on that. So I don't agree.
all right, so we'll move on to section 2 of the agenda, student achievement, our number 1 goal here. Item A is a student presentation regarding the JET program, which relates to our goal number 3. They don't look fully okay.
We're good, right?
I'm Anne.
And I'm Megan.
So we're talking about the jetting program, as you said. I jet for Mrs. Warren in the 4th through 6th grade. I jet with her, there's 6th grade in the room.
Yeah, and I do kindergarten, Mrs. Johnson. And why we jet is for me, Anne and Rhett, we're all planning on going into some kind of education, child development. So I think that's a big part of why we do it.
I know a lot of other students, they just have free time or open hours, so they kind of get like pushed towards jetting. And I think most of them usually enjoy it just because you gotta go down in the elementary and just help teachers. And there's a lot of like good things you learn, even if you aren't going to teaching. I think you can just learn a lot regardless of what you're doing. So there's probably, I don't know how many kids there is, but I feel like there's a lot of kids and everyone I've talked to really enjoys it.
And I would say how we get picked. So me and Anne picked where we wanted to jet. So I really wanted to do elementary education. So I did kindergarten to start, and I plan on staying there the next semester because I really like it.
And then I just kind of reached out to Mrs. Warren because I'm kind of interested in social studies and also being in the upper K through 6 wing. So that's why I chose Mrs. Warren, and most of the other students were like randomly paired with their teachers. So I think Mr. DeWitt sent the teachers an email of who can jet what hour, and then it was kind of first come first serve. They could pick whoever they want.
Some of the like day-to-day activities, I know I come in during reading time for the kindergartners. So when they're doing reading time, I usually, Mrs. Johnson has like assignments for me to do or whatever. So like cutting, correcting papers, doing anything that she needs help with during reading time. And then we go into small group time. So I have a group of kids usually. So it's like one kid or a group doing fixes, sound assessments, letter assessments. I really enjoy doing that. I think they get a lot from it too. I like coming in there and talking to them. Okay.
And then in K through, for the sixth graders, I'm usually helping Mrs. Warren with either student work, so I'll be helping individuals like read a test out loud for kids who need it. Sometimes we'll have 3 or 4 kids doing that. And I think that's really beneficial for them, because I know with Mrs. Warren, she has a class of 14, so she doesn't really have time to read individually to kids. That's just one way I can help her. And then some days I'll be like making copies or laminating stuff for her. I'll also help prepare stuff for exploratory time, which is what the sixth graders do instead of recess some days a week. So I'm kind of doing that for the whole sixth grade class, not just the class I'm in. And then I'll help correct papers, and I'll make their I'll fill out their standards tracker for them, which is just kind of going back between their assessments and putting it on a tracker where they can see where they're at, just because it's kind of tedious just going back and forth. So I feel like that's really helpful for Mrs. Warren. And then I'll help her make different assessments and posters, things like that. Any questions?
How do you see this helping you, the two of you and your colleague Jets, making decisions, for your choice in college and beyond?
I think it's probably kind of helped me like narrow down like just being able to look at different grade levels. Like one day I went and did help like Mrs. Miller's class, and I did enjoy doing that, but I think I like being with like a little bit older kids better. So I think it's kind of helped narrow down what grade level I'd like to teach. Maybe just kind of get different experience with different age level kids. So I feel like that's really beneficial.
Yeah, I would say it's really narrowed down what I want to do as a career. It's always been between education and other things with children, but I think this has really helped me decide what I want to do.
What advice would you guys give the underclassmen if they were thinking about getting in the gym?
I would recommend it because I mean, you do get a credit for it, but like for us, we didn't really need a credit. We just wanted the experience. And I think if anybody is looking into it, I would like definitely recommend it. No, you would get to help kids every day, and they're always like so excited to see me. So it's just really exciting to go down there. Whether I've like seen them like at all summer, I'll see them, or there's some of them are younger volleyball kids, so they're always so excited to see us when we come down there. So it's just really exciting. Even the ones who say like, oh, we don't want a jet, they go down there, and I know they have fun because the kids are excited to. If they get to go and read with the jet, you're having fun and stuff like that. So it's always fun to go down there. It's probably like one of the best hours of my day.
Yeah. I would agree with you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
A few
Mr.
comments.
Laird?
So, with Mrs. Warren, I reached out to see like, how was everything going with it? And she said, Anna's doing awesome. She loves having her in the classroom, and she does a variety of things like she mentioned there. And with Megan, Mrs. Johnson said that she would have her there all day with her.
Can we work that out?
That's what you do. And again, just loves having her, and she helps them with it. So they really enjoy it.
So how many more, and you weren't, last year, you weren't the principal, but do we have twice as many jets this year, 3
Oh,
times?
gosh, I think twice as
Yeah,
many, don't you, right?
so the last, I'd say 3 to 4 years, I don't really know why, Brandon would be able to tell us why, but, the jetting program decreased in numbers drastically, but this year it has really come back, what do we get, 12, 10, something like that, so, we are doing something interesting with one jet also. She jets 3 days a week in the classroom, and she works in the library 2 days a week during that hour. Our pair that's in the library is pairing with another student or classroom, and so doing special ed interventions during that time. So we pay that student as a employee of the school district to work in the library during that time, and I think that's just wonderful work experience for that student. And so, I mean, we're opening some different doors and avenues. And I think like the girl said, it's exposing them to careers. So
is there more demand? Like, would more students do this if we had more positions for them, or would we place more if they were interested?
If they were more interested, I think.
I think we could, we're pretty close to capacity though. Just, I mean, we're pretty close, just hours in the day, and then when our teachers have prep periods and things like that, they don't want jets on their preps, they want them to work with kids, so, you know, we're pretty close to capacity, but I think we can make 3 or 4 more work if we work real hard at it.
I wonder if we could explore partnerships with Tiny Tornadoes or Kelsey, just 2 blocks away. That would be another alternative, or even if Megan wanted to do a second semester and get a different, or any student, not just Megan, any student wanted a little different experience.
One thing for the kids that are thinking about going into education is there is now like 3 different funding sources, so, I mean, if they don't want to go off to college, they don't want to go, they could come and work for us as a para and earn their elementary ed degree and special ed degree pretty much for free online, and never, you know, if going to college was not an opportunity, you know, with all the shortages, like there's a program coming out starting in the fall that they wouldn't have to pay for books, nothing. It would be 100% free, and they could work on the job. So if they were not really a kid that said, I want to go to a 4-year college, they could stay in their career and be able to earn a degree, 2 degrees.
So, and meanwhile, if they're earning,
You girls.
if they're earning college credits, and we're able to earn a couple of semesters of college credits, they might be able to complete that
Yes.
in 3 years.
Yeah, there is an education 101 class that they can take, that they can do it for dual credit. We just haven't gotten to that point yet, but that's absolutely an opportunity that we have to get followed, so.
Now, in years past, I was told that in order to jet, they had to be interested in the education field. So obviously we've opened that up, and that's probably why we have more this year than years past.
We're really trying to use our flexibility waiver.
Do I think part of it was included too.
Yeah,
Because
they're-
when Grace was that age, it wasn't an opportunity,
Oh,
because
sure.
that was the COVID era, so maybe that's just kind of rebuilding after that. Okay, great stuff, thank you. Teacher presentation on the Crane program, is that, Sheila and Kathy. This is goals 1, 2, and 3, you're doing it all.
Our goal and teaching English 12. So this is for the students that didn't get their ACT scores or the high enough to take college English. And
And for math, it was just an opportunity that we offered this year for students who didn't test into college algebra, but still plan to go to college.
so some of them weren't sure if they were going to college, and I said, take it, it wouldn't hurt you, like that hour was open, so they asked. It stands for College Ready English and Math, and so it's utilizing like those skills that they didn't show that competency in to prepare them for a college level English class. It replaces a remedial English class for them or a math class. So typically with their scores, they would have to go to college and take a remedial course, pay for it, and get no credit for it. So they would lose time, money, and those things. And this replaces all of that for them.
So now they get to enter and just take that entry level college algebra and the math. English 101, whatever that means. So they start off, they take a pretest, and then the system grades the pretest and gives them potentially mastery points if they get questions right. And then they don't have to do those things. So it creates then a learning path for the students to work through just on the things that they didn't show mastery on their pretest.
The English side was a little bit different. They took a pretest, and the pretest only allowed them to test out of the full standard. And then we were working, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is never going to get done in a semester. And then I realized there's skills checks. So then in each standard, so there's 8 standards for the English piece. There's a skills check at the very beginning. So then it narrows down that standard specifically, and then you can test out of certain portions of that standard. So at first, it's like you have to test out of the whole standard. And then if not, you can test out of like small portions of it. So I have some kids that are doing like almost all the things. And I have one student who will probably be done, I would say, next week with his learning path because of the knowledge he had in the testing that he did. So it created that path for them once we figured it out. Because my side looks very different than the math side. The math side is way easier to navigate than the English side, but now I am getting used to it and figuring out. So it's going smoothly now, but it was definitely not a few days.
Yeah, it's been interesting. So, this is what my side looks like on, from the teacher side on the top right, and then from the student view on the bottom. So the students just see that and they can take the practice. If they're feeling super confident, like write whole numbers using digits, they can just go to the quiz, but if they fail the quiz, the system forces them to go back and do the practice. So that's kind of nice because sometimes, you know, they're a little overconfident. And so it forces them then to go back to do the practice before they can re-quiz. And then from the teacher's side, and the students can see something similar to this, but you can see their whole playlist there or pathway, and then it shows their mastery points. So each skill that they master, they earn a mastery point. And so the whole chapter 2 had 23 mastery points. The student earned 21 of them so far. I'm sure it's further than that now, but and then they would take a unit test after they're done with that. So generally there are some glitches in the system, so I let them take their unit test after they are like too short of the total mastery points. Because like I said, it's technology, right? It's not perfect. Some of the times there are glitches, so I give them 2 mastery point leeway there before they take their chapter test. And then the chapter test is what gets entered into PowerSchool to determine their grade. There's like 17 math chapters, but it's designed to take the whole year. So I created a pacing guide, and I think that's on a later slide, but yeah.
And then this will be the student view student as well as a teacher at the same time. So I took the pretest to see what some of them look like. And so I took like the top 4, I think. So the top left one, I mastered that on my assessment. So I didn't have any activities then that I had to complete. Some of them, I noticed that even if you got every single question right on the skills check, you still had to do some of the standards. So it was just showing like, these are standards that are really important, like citing sources. Like I still had to do those, even though I got all of them right. And the kids were like, well, that's ridiculous. I'm like, well, it just says they're important. So then it'll show you like how many activities you have to complete. Then when you click into it, you can click on like needs to master. And so it's easy to navigate from the student side, and then the other side is standards. And so I don't have mastery points set up in mine. And so you have to get to 70% or higher to be considered passing. And that's on your post test. So there's a post test for each small piece of each standard. And so they have to get a 70% or higher. And the program allows them to take the post test twice. And some of them have needed to take it 7 or 8 times. And that's something that I just have to do with them. And I make them sit with me and we talk about the post test that they did and then have them try again. And it's a different post test each time they take it. So then sometimes they're still getting those 50s, 60s, and we have to talk about those skills.
So then we created pacing guides. So the math one's on the bottom there. So since I get the full year, I just kind of counted up the number of lessons there were and then gave them a day per lesson. In all sincerity, some lessons take like 2 minutes. Some lessons take a lot longer. It just kind of depends on the kid and how they did on their pretest. If they got any like of the smaller like topics mastered. So they get 1 day per lesson, and then I give them like 1 catch-up day at the end of each chapter. So you can see, and this is how I do eligibility in my Cream course. So if they're not through 3-5 by 3 o'clock today, they will be ineligible next week. And they know that. They all have a copy of this. It's posted in a couple of places in my room. I announce it every day. So far, it hasn't been an issue. Have there been boys that have pushed it to 3 o'clock? Yes. But
my pacing guide looks a little different. So I broke my standards up like RW2 was like 2.27. So I just broke it up. And so there's 2 standards each day that they're expected to meet. They can do all homework or practice outside of my room, but post test need to be taken with me just for that piece of making sure it's really what they know. And 2 standards seems like a lot, but like Ms. Sheeler said, I had a student yesterday take a post test and it took him 45 seconds because he's on the grammar piece and it's 5 questions fairly quick. It's 1 grammar portion at a time. And some of them, they're reading passages and answering questions. So like, as long as the students are working and using the time in my room, which is the problem I'm noticing, like They think they have all the time in the world, and so some days they're coming in and shooting the breeze about their farm in Farming Simulator that's gonna become a farm in real life. And you just kind of let them, because then if they get behind pace, it shows. So I averaged like all of their practice and give them a grade for that, and then I give them a grade for their post test. And so eligibility in my room is really just a F, because I am grading the things for them. And then like 2 standards a day might seem like a lot, but Brian might have done really well on his pre-test, and he might through that whole week need to get 1 standard done. So he has that time to work ahead. And the students then said, like, what if we finish early? And then they had all these ideas, and I'm like, pick one of you and have one of you go talk to Mr. Lynch about your ideas. And so if they finish early, they earn senior privileges, and for the rest of the semester, they will not have to report to my classroom. So I don't see most of them utilizing that time to have an hour-and-a-half lunch, because it's right by lunch. So I think 1 or 2 students that'll finish for sure by the end of October, and the rest of them probably will be on pace. Just because they like to hang with each other, which is fine.
So is yours is a full year?
Yeah.
And yours is,
Semester 1.
do you think will you do the same thing with a different group of students in the second semester, or just?
We'll do English 12. Yeah, we talked about, we'll do scholarship writing, job resumes, those types of things. English 12 second semester. Any questions for us?
Good stuff. All right. Well, in case you thought that was all the good stuff that was going on, you know, have computer science also go 3, and that is Mr. Schneider.
All right, so this is my first year doing TEALS, and basically what TEALS is, it's a way to get computer science into the schools. And so this TEALS company, they find a bunch of volunteers that work in the computer science industry. And then they ask for these people to volunteer to teach in our classrooms. And so for the first year in the program, these volunteers will do 100% of the teaching. So I'm basically the classroom leader. So I've kind of organized, they gave me their contact info, I organized them. And then we met and talked about what curriculum we're going to do. And then they basically do all the teaching. And then I'm in the classroom as the classroom manager and also as a student. So I'm in there doing all the computer science assignments, because the next year, the plan is that I start taking over some of the teaching. So I'll still get volunteers, and then I take over anywhere from 20 to 80% of the teaching, whatever I get comfortable with. And then by the 3rd year, that I'm supposed to take over all the teaching, computer science or whatever we're doing. So that's kind of how the TEALS run their program. And so basically I'm in there doing all the same assignments with all the kids. We currently have 4 kids in that class. It's a intro to computer science, Python. So if you're familiar with computer science, there's a whole bunch of different languages, similar to English, French, German, you know, it's all similar, but they have different things that they do in them. And so we're learning Python specifically. And then we meet with our teaching team twice a week, and I have 2 really fantastic volunteers and then 1 fantastic assistant. So in most given days, there's for sure always 1 teacher there. And then sometimes the assistant is always there too. So sometimes we have 2 people. So we have a really good ratio. You look at it that way, where they need help. But we are looking to get more kids into it. And I know things might be different also with now that we're going to require a computer science credit, which I just found out not too long ago. So I think that's gonna be good that we're in this TEALS program already.
Would this fulfill the computer science credit?
As far as I'm aware, yes.
It would be a half a credit, so if they did a full year, then they would get that 1 credit.
We're also looking into some, well, when Larry talks about his, but some dual credit, and I don't mean dual credit like with college, but I mean that too, but also like a math credit and a computer science credit.
One course would fulfill both.
We're looking into that possibilities.
Where are your teachers from, and how did they join you?
2 of them are from the Minneapolis area. The 2 main teachers are, and they always join via Zoom. And then 1's from Maine, actually. Assistant is from Maine. So
Not amazing in one classroom, somebody from Maine, somebody from Minneapolis.
Somebody from Whitney.
Yeah.
come on, now, don't bring up the kids.
Back last night. Oh, no.
I said,
You got it
down.
And so this is your first year
completing the TEALS program, but did you this year? Were you-
I did it the previous 2 years,
Okay.
yes. I'll be honest, I tried my best to learn the Python with the kids and I could bumble my way through some stuff probably, but teaching it would not be beneficial for our kids from me. So I handed over the reins, he showed interest and
So when I've heard of this program before, and any computer science and programming, I have heard that sometimes we would think math teachers would be the norm, the common idea to go to, but some say it's language teachers, as you said, it's like a language or even music teachers.
And that's how I felt. It was very much still a foreign language to me. Like I said, I could survive, but like to teach it would not have been a good thing. So.
She was really honest about it, which had helped them with the grades. Yeah. Yeah.
So I kind of interrupted you, but what else you got for us?
That's really all I had. I was gonna open up to questions. Like I said, I'm just a student in the course right now, so just trying to ask. Yeah. I sit there and ask questions too, because I want to hear how they explain it and how they talk about it, so that if it comes down to the point where I'm by myself doing it, I should probably know how to answer those questions.
All right, thank you, good work. All right, it looks like we have even one more presentation, cybersecurity / computer science plan, goals 1, 2, and 3. That's Mr. Engel. Mr. Engel gets up and just finish.
Let me know.
Yeah. I guess you could. Everyone's not welcome. I emailed you a document this morning because it's been a busy week. That's good. I just. We're talking about House Bill 1398, which I don't know if all of you have heard about it, but it was enacted this spring. And it actually changes the century in 25, 26. Make sure that every one of our graduates has a credit of computer science or cybersecurity. Every month, all the technology coordinators in the state, they have a town hall meeting over Zoom. And in August, I learned about that EduTech was actually utilizing a program called CS Script Raw. And that helps us prepare, and because we're required to have an implementation plan done this year. So that kind of helps you get through those steps. And I talked to Anna and I was like, absolutely, let's do this. And then I went back to EduTech and they said, if you do it in September, it's free. So we got it done in September. We're the second school in the state to do this. White Shield was the first. And from what I'm gathering, some of the larger schools, they're working on this other, they're going to do it. But there's a lot of small schools right now that have no idea what, and they're looking for guidance, they're not sure. And I can tell you this for certainty, because next week when I go out to the North Dakota Technology Leaders Conference, I'm going to be leading a roundtable on this very thing, because everyone has questions and they don't know what to do next. But they do know that they need a plan this year. So if you were able to open up the link I sent you, on the very first page, there's actually the steps from implementing them. And we've pretty much gone through step 1 now with EduTech. We've spent 8 hours with the trainers and we've looked at standards. We've created a vision statement. Kind of feeling for where we are right now. I think I have a picture later on. I figured I'd really dazzle you with content. So you've got a 60-page document here. So get ready to go through it all. So right now we're in the middle of step 2. We're looking at to create this whole integration plan and get instruction out to all of our teachers. Because the goal for this is to actually start integrating computer science and cybersecurity going all the way back into the lower elementary. And they can integrate it using the standards. And I did include the computer science standards at the end of this document. If for some reason you want to go take a look at the standards, a lot of the standards we're doing right now, we just don't put them in our lesson plans. There are a lot of them already being implemented. And I actually have a picture of a lesson plan that Jessica was doing for one of her classes. You can see that she integrated hers. we're going to be meeting, so we're done with our 8 hours with EduTech, but we're going to be meeting with them in January for a 3-month plan. And then in April for a 6-month plan, and then come July, we should be ready to finish our implementation and roll this out. We felt as a group that it was important that we start offering a credit next year. Because we're required the year after, but we don't want everybody who needs a credit to also be in these classes. We've got huge classes, and so if we can start next year, then we can, be ahead of the game and start getting these people offered their courses. There's a lot of different ways to do it, like Brian's Teals program, that's sponsored by Microsoft, and so they were really keen funding this and helping find volunteers. And cyber.org and code.org are both two places where they have like dozens of courses that we can look at, going all the way back into the elementary. So one of the sheets here, I said, we'll integrate this in the lower elementary just by bringing in simple standards. But if we get to 6 to 8, we actually have the ability, we have a credentialed teacher to offer optional courses. And then when we get into high school, like I said, there's just a variety of courses we can offer. And like Anna said, they can actually replace math or science credit course. So you get both those credits. So, and the last part of the picture is we do need to have this implemented and ready in place. So after July 31, 2025, every student's required to graduate with full credit. So that's 2 semesters of either computer science or cybersecurity and something or another. I basically went through what we did with EduTech. So on page 2, we actually had a rubric from CS for All, and that rubric hits 6 main categories: materials and curriculum, leadership, teacher capacity development, partners in community, and technology infrastructure. And then we ranked ourselves on the rubric, either being novice, emerging, developing, or highly developed. And so we were pretty honest and went through what we're doing right now, what we need to do. And I put down the explanation for each one if you want to look at those. And the grades that you see, like materials and curriculum, emerging, that's how we felt where we were at this. Go look further down, it talks about who's on the team. It's mostly the curriculum committee. And this is where I tell you that many of the standards are already integrated in classes. And so if you see a picture that says a unit of study, a child called it by Dave Pelzer, there's 3 standards at the bottom of that lesson plan. And those are the standards that are the computer science standards. So use collaborative technology to communicate information to an audience. So you could use Keynote or PowerPoint or iMovie or some sort of technology to create a presentation and put it out to your audience. And that meets one of the standards. Use advanced search strategies to locate information online. So let's Google it, right? So if you're out there, you're using different search strategies to find your information and appropriate information. And then choose appropriate device or hardware, software. So whatever your presentation you want to do, you choose right application for it. So right there, we're hitting 3 standards, and we're doing it every day. And now we're actually putting it in a lesson. Then I gave you a link for the standards, plus I put the standards at the bottom just to make it easy for you. And I'm telling you, in K through 8, we'll need to integrate it. 6 through 8, we can have that introductory class because they actually have both cyber.org and core.org have pathways. Can't remember the name of them right now, but like different pathways are for the different grade levels. So you could offer 2 or 3 courses for that pathway in middle school. In order, you could go to the next pathway for high school. Page 4, I did put our goals. So these are the goals that we're looking at them and what we identified. So for our 3-month goal, we're looking at ways to implement the curriculum in all the grade levels. inform the staff of this mandate. We're going to have monthly meetings. How do we staff this? How do we credential teachers? We came to the decision that we need more than just Ryan and Liz credential. There should be a lot of teachers credentials so they can either offer a course or at least have an understanding of how to integrate it. I think. And there's a variety of ways to get it. EduTech offers a middle school and a high school course. I believe it's 4 days in a semester where you might go to Fargo or Valley City and you take the course all day long. And then the fifth part of it is you create a lesson plan and you teach a lesson and then you write it. And within that, you get a 32-hour credential. And then they offer one more day later if you want it to give you a 40-hour credential. And having 32 or 40 just kind of differentiates what you can teach. And they do have the levels on the next picture below that. So there are 4 levels or 3 levels for the credentialing. Level 1, you've got 200 more hours of all of this, and you can teach anything you want. Level 2, you got 40 or more hours. So if you get that extra 8 hours on top of the 32, you'd be a level 2 credential teacher. And then level 3, you're out there, you take that course. Ignite MD is a conference in the summer. If a teacher went to all 3 days of Ignite MD, they can take that for the 32-hour credential. So 3 days, and they earn that. Once again, they'd have to write a paper. So there's a lot of different ways to get credentials. And then you just have to keep it up so you're renew it. So everything after that, I actually printed out 1398 for you if you want to read the wording on it, how it works. It talks about how we could, replace a class with a computer science class and what's required of us. And then way at the bottom, I put the standards. But on page 10 of 59, I did steal a slide from EduTech, and it's the state of computer science in North Dakota 2022. And they're actually about to get the 2023 ones. So right now, North Dakota is ranked 38 in 52 states in computer science and their offerings. We have 991 jobs each month open on average. Yet we only graduate 172 as of 2019 students in the year. So there's a big disparity in how many jobs there are, how many people are graduating, and the average salary in computer science, cybersecurity is $73,000. And a lot of times you don't need a college degree. You just need to get the certifications.
Larry, of the 172, is that just 4-year college degrees, or does that include like Energy Digital Academy and
I don't know that.
2-year school?
Yeah, they didn't talk about that. That probably should have been a question. So, room to grow is what they do. And after that, so I'll open it up for questions.
You need to tell them what you're doing with your team. You're into the programming.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Last year, North Dakota started, was 2 years ago, they started Cyber Madness for high school. So it's a competition for students to look at. It's not just computer programming, there are questions on it, but there's like the Caesar cipher, there's like Bacon cipher, there's all kinds of ciphers. There's general math questions. We found out just an English question yesterday, but it's like a Jeopardy style board where all these questions are. And the high school one really focuses more in the programming end. But last year they started a middle school Cyber Madness. So we actually put a team together of 4 8th graders. We have Jillian, and I think they have Jillian thanks to Roxy. Because we got Jillian, we got Avery and Jada, and then Grayson Dorcher. He's been on board since the beginning. And we started practicing during homeroom, working at it. we still have a lot of questions though, because Jeopardy's one part of it, there's another part called capture the flag. And I emailed 2 different people who were involved in this, asked them very specific questions and have not gotten an answer besides, here's where you can practice. So, and we, like next week, I'm gonna be in Bismarck for 2 days, and then we'll go for 2 days, and then the week after that is our first competition. And it's a virtual competition here, and if we do well, we qualify, in November, we can go to the state competition at the university. And so I'm probably not impressed with what we can do.
A question. You've done a great deal of work and you're showing us how this plan, how we're integrating here at Oaks Public Schools. Have you, or will you, be collaborating with the Southeast Region Career Tech Center at all because this looks to me like that could fit in out there as well.
Yeah, I actually reached out to Mr. Spellerberg last spring when this was introduced to see if there were plans. And he loved to get another Steve Thompson who's up there teaching all these courses. But he's like, we can't pay them what they're making in the industry. There's already a shortage. So to find someone to come in and teach is really hard.
But even to integrate the standards, you know, and that would be their responsibility to
Right.
integrate the standards, but I have thought about CTE and thinking, you know, for CTE concentrators, they need to take a certain number of classes in the same pathway. Well, every area of CTE requires technology and so could one class or at Career Tech Center qualify for both an ag or a health or a
Well, I guess that would be the DPI, because right now they've only said it now.
or CTE?
Yeah, so they haven't. said anything with CTE classes.
Okay, and so the other question I had when you were talking about staff getting credentialed, is that something that our staff can use for their elected PD hours?
We haven't gotten that far down there. I'm really hoping to have that policy written on credentialing available for you guys for next month to look at that. So that we can look at some of those items. Greg and I have been working on through that. I'm putting down policy to compensate teachers when they become our, you know, take on some of these extra credentials and use them, not just have them, but use them.
Any other questions? Work?
Ms. Green?
All right. 7:43 a.m. Fall Star data, goals 1 and 2.
Mr. Lynch and Mr. Roberts.
So you guys got this in my report, looking at the 23-24 reading proficiency of our kindergarten through 6th grade. So this is from our STAR benchmarking first assessment. We will do this in K-6 4 times through the school year. This was just the first time. You guys, I don't have a lot of comments, I guess, just.
With the questions
Question.
of the high school side of the 12 students that didn't take it, I was able to test with 7 of them. 5 of them are above that 50% mark. One of them was at about 43 scores right there. So there's still about half of them that I'm going to have them take the test again, so that we can see what their scores are with that impact on the senior side of it. Yeah, it was just one student took it, just having a conversation with them at some point, figuring out some things. That's what I was like, well, I didn't think it really mattered for us as students. I was like, well, no, it matters for us to see what that data is. Like, do you know what you need to know at this? So, got that piece of it straightened out there. But about half of them are still gonna test on it. So let's see that.
So great, what you put the elementary
from when we were at like the summer slide, right? So historically, how much does that go up between fall and spring?
I don't know, historically, there is usually, there is a drop off in the fall usually. And then in the early winter window, I think we see that come back. And then usually our highest scores are in the late winter category. I think that would be pretty historical, but I don't know if I can tell you a good, like how much this drops. I will tell you, we didn't do a very good job planning in our 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. We did all of our STAR testing on the same day, and that was just a bunch of balls were dropped, and that's on me, and it's my fault. And we're gonna learn from that, get better. But all our kids STAR tested math and reading on the same day, and that's just too much. And so we didn't do a very good job communicating that day. Which we was testing when, so. There's also school picture day too, so it's just really bad planning. Yes, Mr. Schneider, yes.
You guys get the internet. I think in the packet somewhere I addressed it that we had been using 40 as our, that's what STAR suggests is that that's at grade level, but we found that that data was a little bit misleading because we were thinking, okay, all of these kids were ready for the NDSA and they have those skills, and then that it just wasn't jiving. So we met, we talked, and we decided that we need to up our barrier to 50, to get over that and set that bar at, just to give us better information, because these are our measures for our goals, and we want to make sure that we have a true picture, or it's
We're trying to find out,
fine-tune it.
we're trying to indicate which students will not be proficient on the NDSA test in the spring, right? And so right now we have some data that indicates we have a lot of students that won't be, but like I said, there's some extenuating circumstances, especially I believe in that 6th grade that affected that data a little bit. But again, this is just our first benchmark, and I think we'll get a much better, clearer picture here in early December when we take the test.
I think there's a mind shift too, and we've been talking about how to overcome that, because like when Jordan said, okay, so our kids that are in college English, those kids should be our highest scoring kids, right? And then when he tested them, we had kids that took it in 16 seconds. And the message that's being sent from our staff is that this is important. We need this information. So Jordan's going to those kids and saying, it looks like we're gonna need to do some interventions because you're scoring this low. And they went, whoa, wait, that's not true. Can I take it again? In fact, we have people that ask you too, can I take it again? But then again, that data will be skewed because where they end up at is where that test starts at. So then their questions are looking at a much lower level because the test's thinking they don't have these skills. We need to back off and find, so it gets skewed.
I think it took one student 3 tests just to see where they actually were. They took it the first time, like I said, it was the 16 seconds they got done. Well, the next time they actually took it 3, they're like, these questions are super easy. It's like, what started you at that level where you thought you were at? So then the next time around, they got to the score where it shows where that actually is.
So that happened in my class too, because last year they would just click through the test. So English 12 had to take, and I have one student, and he, always gives me a good laugh every day. He's like, I got any of those wrong, just send me back to kindergarten now. And I said, well, here's why it did this, because it thought you were at a kindergarten level, because last year you would just click on those. And so it took, and he was the one that was like, I gotta take it again. So I was like, this is not sure what you know. And I know you know more than that. And that's part of it. For years, there's been no explanation to them on why the scores are important. And now it's more like, we just want to know what you know, so we know how to help you. And so most of my kids are willing to take it to get in my room too. But yeah, they click on it and then they don't say anything when the test is super easy and have those conversations until they're like, there's no way I was in the 2 percentile. Those conversations have been good with the seniors, especially this year.
And like that falls on us, right? We need to do a better job as a staff and as administration thing, explaining to the kids, like giving them the meaning, because if it doesn't have meaning, obviously it's no different for any of us, right? We're not going to work very hard at it. So that needs to fall on all of us, and that's our path that we're going down to.
Any other questions?
All right, thank you so much. Moving on to item F, progress measures, which obviously apply to all three goals.
Yeah,
And
so
where are we with it?
that will,
Have we approved? These are approved, right?
no,
we're
okay,
not.
so you don't approve,
Oh, no, okay.
but when you will, receive those goal progress measures, but these goals,
Yes.
progress measures belong to me and my staff. So, Greg, Jordan and I worked on those, and in your packet were the incremental, the marks, you know, from it's, under 2F. So, you know, the yearly benchmarks are on there, the yearly progress measures, so you've got that broken down. But I did put it in a new document that I set by you, that's what's gonna be presented to the staff and what'll be hanging on the wall. Those are our goal progress measures. So we're gonna have 3 for goal 1, which is ELA and math. So we're gonna use star reading. So that's where the communication is gonna have to be, you know, that we need to start setting this up. So the percentage is gonna increase for K2 students, 3, 6, 7, 10 to break those groups down, so that we can start to focus in on where our areas of improvement need to be. So you've got goal 1. Goal 2 is math, so the same exact thing, K2, 6, or 3, 6, and then 7, 12. And then this was a hard one, choice ready. Jordan and Ed and I and Marsha worked with us on figuring out what are we gonna use for our goals for it, because there's so many different pathways, right? You know, you could be not military ready, but you could be ready in the other 2, and they don't all have the same requirements except for the general areas. But we went and we looked to see where did most of our kids not do very well and where did they fall on it. The ASVAB is one of our areas where our kids didn't make choice ready. So we decided to use our ASVAB as our focus or one of our goals. And last year, 77% of the kids scored a 31, which, you know, they've adjusted that benchmark, and that's not going to be an extremely hard with our focus on it. So we decided to use that, and we want that to be up to 90%. Goal 3.2, goal progress measure 3.2 then is, we decided what we're gonna do is we wanna look at our sophomores. At the end of their sophomore year, how many of our kids are choice ready in at least one of the indicator areas? And last spring, and I put that is not on here because Ed and I just met, but it is on the new one that I gave you. So this year, 84% of our sophomores were choice ready in at least one area.
Start in the fall, before the, or in
the spring.
Mhm.
So
after
going
the
into their
10th
junior
grade
year.
They've met one. and-
Yeah.
And to be considered choice ready at graduation, they have to be in
two areas. So again, I mean, this could end up being a path that the data is misleading, because you could have kids that are choice ready or in one pathway as juniors, and then as juniors and seniors, something takes place that they don't meet another path. But we feel like if they have one, got some pretty solid ground, and then we can focus on at least one of the others, maybe all 3 of them. So we're hoping that that's a good data measure. If it's not, we'll change our goal progress, but it's just really hard to pin down where do we focus at, but.
Because there are so many.
Oh, yes.
That it gives the learners choice as to how they want to meet choice ready. So if they're already choice ready in one, in workforce, for example, and then we want them to get a second, which would be
Military.
Post-secondary or military, well, you choose which one of those 2 do you want to shoot for? And then within that second area, well, you've got various pathways to choose from here too.
Our second problematic area was FIED, right? They didn't have their FIED credit, or there was something along that route, right, Jordan?
That was just an issue with the student last year. So like, I mean, a couple of students to be choice ready, like one, they just missed the FIED credit. They passed that. Another one was, let's say, different issues in like suspensions, like that caused it, or missing out on a class, like that's all it was. Like if you'd offered this Korean class last year, there have been 3 or 4 students that have met that criteria. We didn't have it.
Okay, speaking of the suspensions issue, you had mentioned maybe sometime last year about, because the way we were operating, if a student had ever had a suspension, they would never be able to qualify as military ready, because that's a black mark in that area. But you talked about implementing we're exploring anyway, some restorative process whereby that could be expunged from their record. Have we gone anywhere with that?
We've had several conversations and we've got some, like, we had, okay, let's say a child's vaping, right? And is on out of school suspension. We have vaping classes that they can take that we will be able to do some restorative. I mean, there's some things that wouldn't be a restorative thing, right? So you are, a weapon at school, okay? So you have a weapon at school and that would not be able to be expunged because that is also, you know, going to be a felony or a misdemeanor, in the real world. But something like vaping, we could do some kind of a restorative. So I think what we're really operating on is a case by case basis. Our goal is to help the kids, right? And we want, when they're freshmen, sophomores, to do something to help them in order to restore themselves to be better citizens. So we're kind of looking at it as a case by case basis, but that is an option, you know, to use that. And if Jordan has kids in the office for in-school suspension, let's say their phone or they are having difficulties in class, Jordan will work on those restorative and those aren't going to be reported because obviously we don't want somebody to not be able to go to the military because they were removed from class for talking or using their phone or whatever, you know. So we're doing a case by case basis. We're really trying to start to get away from this is the way we do things and everybody has to follow this versus let's look at each child and see what's best for each child. So that I know I jive with what we've been talking about.
Yeah, and like, so like reporting it, like the serious ones, like she said, like, yes, those need to be reported the same, but like if it's a fourth party, or let's say they got certain instances, they're like, it's something that is not reported the same, is it something that we can handle in here, but like more of the serious matter, yes, that is something that is a state reported suspension there.
So if there are any policy adjustments that need to be made, you'll bring that to the board so that you can work with it in the manner that you want. Yes. Any other questions on goal progress measures? 7:57. Thank you all for being here. Have a good day. Thank you. All right, 7:57 a.m. We're starting on, we'll do the consent agenda, including minutes from the tax levy hearing, regular board meeting, both on September 15th, special board on the 21st, August financial reports, August bills, and the first reading of policy BJA, which is what again?
Substitute teachers, long term.
Okay, all right. And then also item G is to receive and recognize that the administration has presented us with their goal progress measures. That is an item that we received. Those were all sent to you a week or so ago. Is there a motion to approve or to act on the consent agenda as listed on our agenda? Nagel moves. Is there a second?
Yes.
Sire seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Say no. Motion passes. And at 7:58, we'll move on to informational reports. The business manager's report was in your packets. Anything to highlight there? No. Okay. Superintendent's reports, any special things? Committee reports. No. All right, September board meeting time tracking sheet that was sent to us shortly after our September meeting, and it was in our packet again. I think we're gonna try to get over the bar that we can do. What percentage were we at last month? 57, 37?
39.36.
39.36%.
Well, Marcia.
Texas math.
Oh, sorry, Marcia. No, she'll probably watch it.
All right, so those reports were in your packet for information, and if you have questions or concerns, please direct them to business manager superintendent. Okay. 7:59 a.m. Moving on to items for discussion and possible action. Thank you for submitting your business manager evaluations. I got them compiled yesterday and sent to you by email and shared also with Shannon and Anna. This is not something we're required to do by law, and I'm not going to ask us to approve it, but you've all seen, you had an opportunity to share comments, and I encourage you to bring your questions. And Shannon, if you see things that you think, well, I can't do it that way or whatever, you share that out with us. I have, the form that I sent you is ready to be signed, and I will sign it, and have Shannon sign it and place it in her own file. Next item is the South Gym floor.
Okay, so included in your packet is the rendering or the drawing of the new floor with FLR standards. Robin's been working really hard. She actually had to draw that out and color it and everything, and she was very good. She was very cognizant to, no, but she was very cognizant of also talking to the FIAD teachers and the coaches to say, hey, what do you want for some things? So along the sideline, she doesn't have those on there, but FLR does. They're gonna be adding some ladders that will be underneath the bleachers that can, you know, when the bleachers are back and the kids have FIAD or they've got volleyball practice or basketball practice, they can use those.
Ladders painted on the floor. Ladders, not-
Yeah, that will be covered. Yeah, that'll get covered up like that. They'll be covered up. So the cost of this is more than the $25,000. The quote with this and the floor repair is $37,527.79. And so what I need is, yeah, I just need you to approve this project, just because of the cost of it. So what I'm asking, that's what I'm asking.
I have a question. Okay, so we have to repair the floor because the water was getting in underneath the crushed, or what is being done to prevent that?
Yeah, great question. So they're gonna pull up those boards and there's a certain space, I mean, it's on there. So they're gonna remove that and they're going to be putting in a barrier, rubber barrier, and the floor is not gonna be bumped right up against that door. There's going to be a space there so that does not happen again, so. And Robin has been working diligently to also raise money for this, and she believes that she has the sponsors, but I feel like, okay, we need to go ahead as a school, we're gonna get this fixed this summer, and then we're almost 100% sure that we've got sponsors for it, so.
For 100% of the $38,000.
I think we're not asking them to do the repairs, we're asking them to just do the sponsorship of the floor, which is the $33,000, so. People go on companies that are very generous when it comes to things like this, you know, they want to get their name out there, they want to have this, you know, their sponsors.
And is there any additional, beyond the floor? So I'm imagining creating an environment with, you know, a new wall pads at the south end with maybe not our logo, but tornadoes on it or something additional.
Robin hasn't really thought about that, and that's kind of like her baby, so I let her take care of those gyms, and she works with the coaches and says, what are our needs?
Like more permanent signage, and, you know, the overall environment would be maybe a next step to explore. All right, so go ahead.
So our deductible is $2,000 on the floor, and so right now I think it's just over $3,000, $3,300, so that was for the $3,900. But it also is contingent on what they find once they dig up the boards, and if there's something that needs to be in place, so.
So if we file a claim, is that going to change our premium? Being how it's so close.
They didn't seem to think, when I had talked to the people at Knitter, they didn't think that was an issue at all. But, and we don't have to file a claim, depending on, I mean, if you only find the $3,900, I don't know if we would file a claim for $1,800.
All right, I'm seeking a motion that we can discuss more if necessary. I'm seeking a motion to authorize our superintendent to move forward with the South Gym floor project at $38,000. So, Pine Buck moves. Is there a second? Second. Dave seconds. Any discussion? Any further discussion?
I would like to say something.
Sure.
When you were saying about the pads, I'd like to see maybe more updates to that South Gym. You know, maybe new pads or something like that in the future.
Create a more, kind of a more main gym environment.
Right, exactly.
Because when we first, that was the whole reason that the floor, not that it looks bad, right? But, you know, that was supposed to just be our practice gym, and now it's become our main gym, so I'll talk to Robin.
What about the nets, like when we have tournaments?
Volleyball nets?
Yeah, well, or, you know,
Curtains.
the curtains, like a lot of schools have the, yeah, I said that, sorry.
Oh,
Grades.
divider, a
Yes.
divider, I see.
Oh, yeah, I think Robin's looked at that, that's.
They're, I know they're really expensive, yeah.
Maybe not with money with it.
I know, well, I just.
But that,
was
you
Brian.
could,
One of the problems with that also is the stage lengths.
I remember we've talked about that before, and I think that the conclusion was they weren't really wanted that much at that time, and there were some other kind of barriers. But I'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, I guess we'll have a roll call on these non-procedural matters.
Day,
Yes.
Sire,
Yes.
Nagel,
Yes.
Steinbuck, Meal.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. I want to just back up to the business manager eval, because I realized I didn't ask if anybody wanted to make any comments. Nobody wants to say what a wonderful job.
I think she's done a great job. I do. I think she's done a really great job. Yeah, no, she's.
She
They
does good.
appreciate your willingness to learn and
Yes, tackles anything that is thrown at her.
All right.
can we make a little change here? Can we have Mrs. VP?
Of course.
Yeah,
Yes,
changing
yes,
it to
yes,
guidance
yes.
principal, yeah.
Of course, yes, let's skip up to, and thank you, Shannon, and thank you for sharing. comments.
And then Lori will be next.
Yes, Mrs. Van Persum, please come forward and give us a pitch on your music trip. That was a fun, everybody.
Mrs. VP, if you're looking for that.
Pitch.
Yeah.
Shannon was.
I'm Mrs. Van Person, I'm the music teacher, and I'm proposing that we take my down in New York coming up. Every 4 years is when OC usually has done it, and we skipped last year, and so I do for a trip. And here's some of the information, and actually the second one is all we need to see right now.
Which one? One on the left or one on the
The
right?
one on the right. I had two options of how we could travel there, but all of my students have selected to do this option, so.
What's the difference between the two?
The first one is, taking a bus all the way to New York, this is flying, okay? So if we look at the top where it says tour package cost per person, we would go with the quad cost because we would get rooms where students would stay in a room with four people rather than having like a single room for every single student, which would be 2,676, and that would be a little bit extra and unnecessary. As of right now, instead of 17 students and eight adults, I have 19 students and 3 adults, and I haven't reached out to many adults. They've reached out to me so far. So that would hopefully lower the cost. The more students we get on board with it, the less it costs. For example, if you look a little bit lower, it says, for example, 3 students and 12 adults would lower the cost to about 1,773 per student or per person, period. So that would be the cost. Our transportation, that 550 is included in the tour package cost per person. So that wouldn't be added. However, if we had students bring band instruments, or if students just brought heavy luggage, they would have to pay their own fees accordingly. Next bullet point there is our insurance, our liability insurance coverage, and motor coach, our so on and so forth. That cost. And again, the original cost above. We would be staying for 4 nights. We would only be doing this for about 5 days. It would be the day right after cross country. So students who are at state cross country would still be able to attend. And then it would be right before some other state. I think it so it fits right in between. Shouldn't interfere. Some of the meals are paid for with the cost up above. Like for a voucher for the baseball game that we'll go to, or like the deluxe continental breakfast would be included in the cost above. The attractions listed You can kind of see them there. There's 2 Broadway shows that students have told me that they are very, very excited for. I took a poll on what the students were most interested in seeing or doing at New York, and a lot of them, the word they used most was experience, because they're excited for the experience. The second word was Hamilton. So they really want to see Hamilton. But in addition to that, there's opportunities where they could see the 9/11 Museum and Memorial. And I went to this just about the same trip when I was a high school kid, and it was very humbling, very, very cool. And not a student made fun of it. It was very cool to see where the building still stood. And I thought it was very educational. I think the students would feel the same way. Our music inclusions, as of right now, since it's been 5 years since we've taken students on a trip like this, I would make the performance for my students optional. There's great benefits to having them perform at a trip like this. However, I'm not going to force it on them. So it depends on how we do this next couple months. And if they're willing, if not, you know that they can take a step away from it and just go for the experience. Next thing, we would have an escort the whole time throughout the trip. We wouldn't be left alone to our own devices. We would be lost. We would be escorted the whole time. And that's pretty much the logistics. The date, I didn't mention the date. It would be May 27th to the 31st. We would be leaving fairly early in the morning. We would fly from Minot to New York. And so the issue would be getting students to Minot. My travel advisor has suggested that we use a school bus, but there's other options as well. We can have students travel along with their parents, because I've had a lot of parent interest in doing this as well. So it depends on what parents and students would like to do. If we were tossing around the idea of taking a bus, the funds would come out of the music fundraising area to do so.
Why Minot?
Why not? Well, it is what my travel advisor recommended. I don't think that's set in stone. I could reach out and ask if we could do Fargo instead. Make it a lot easier.
Or Aberdeen, Jamestown.
Sure.
Closer. And you don't have to do that. And if you take private vehicles to Aberdeen or Jamestown, you don't pay to park them there. That's not always the best option. I agree.
As of right now, pretty much everything I've asked him, he said, yep, we can change that. We can do that. He's very accommodating, very flexible. So I probably just should have looked into that before now, to be honest with you. So, and then if I'm leaving anything else for you, I asked my students to give me some responses on why they think they should go to New York. One student, I will quote and unquote what they said. I would love to go to New York because it will be a special opportunity. I'll learn what it's like to operate in such a big city. Having lived in North Dakota, I've never experienced anything even remotely close to this before. With the once-in-a-lifetime activities planned, this would be a great bonding experience with both potentially parents that they would bring along and my friends on the trip. Oh well, it can be a great way to would be like and wanted to live in a larger city like New York. The activities that we are partaking in is not only interesting, but is also educational. Some of the activities present information that we will or have already learned in classes, giving us more information on the topic. And this trip is giving us the chance to further find ourselves and experience real life activities. We will be seeing things and people that we've likely never seen before, which is why I would love to go to New York and see all these incredible things. This is one of the many responses that I received from the students. To add on to the students have been fundraising since 7th grade to go on a trip such as this. Last year, because I didn't have it well organized to take the students you go and ask students who about it. I don't do it. It would be nice to not have to do that again. So there's this much information. Is there any questions, concerns, comments?
Could those heartbroken students be invited to, participate if they're able?
A chaperone, potentially. I would think so.
All right, and the reason that we need to act on this is because policy requires that any trip beyond
400 miles.
400 miles, which is beyond. It's pretty cool. We'll call it. Mrs. VP, how will this trip contribute to us achieving our student achievements?
Well, one of our goals as a school is to be respectful. And I think going to New York, you get a chance to learn a whole new level of respect, knowing that you'll see homeless people on the side of the road and wow, I never knew that there was a life like this outside of what we know, and getting that experience to see people way different than what they grew up with might change their respect for themselves, their family members, the school that they go to, North Dakota and Jim.
So living out our values and, all right. Any more questions before we vote on this? All right, is there a motion to approve the 2024, May 2024 music trip to New York? Nagel moves. Is there a second? Sire seconds. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Heimbach.
Yes.
Nagel.
Yes.
Sire.
Yes.
Day.
Yes.
Neil.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, and let me know when I can buy some butter bread. Okay, next we'll back up to item C, the facilities assessment.
And Lori is on here.
Marcia, sorry, in all of my glory, I apologize. I have got to wrap my head around 7:30 a.m. board meeting versus 7:30 p.m.
7:05.
So, Sonia, can you give me an idea of what you've gotten done? And so what I need to catch up on?
We've had 4 questions from students and teachers. We've gone through our fall STAR data and our goal progress measures. We took 1 minute and approved our consent agenda. We took 1 more minute and found out there was nothing to highlight in all of the informational reports. We've discussed the business manager evaluation, the South Gym floor. We skipped ahead to the music trip, and now we're backing up to facilities assessment.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, Lori is on here, and we had a conversation the other day. I don't know if she wants to pop on, but so for the facilities assessment, maybe just some discussion needs to take place on the next step with our facilities. When Lori and I talked, we decided that we need to maybe have a work session with the school board. So I know it means one more special board meeting, but
we decided that, didn't we?
Yeah. Lori's laughing now. Just to look deeper into our survey results, because when they presented them to us, it was more a summative versus maybe looking at some of the expressions of people that did the survey of things that were important, things weren't as important, as we move forward. If you want to modify proposed plan, what our next steps need to be moving forward, because we have more information now about, and I guess you guys can decide too, maybe you want to buy a chiller, but we have information about the chiller, we have information about the plumbing. Dave, I don't think still has the tuck pointing, but Lori, maybe you want to add something to it too?
Well, I would say the biggest thing is we've asked for input, and kind of our next step is well, hearing from Todd is we do need to continue to to reach out and educate and gain more feedback. So that is step one. It's like, we gotta still, we gotta listen to what the results said. I'd recommend that, just because that way we'll be successful when you are ready, right? Or will likelihood of being successful. So we need to gather more information, but also what we heard from that survey is something that can kind of help refine what your plan looks like. And that was where he had like, what would their top priorities be and what would be their lowest priorities. That doesn't mean that that would be exactly what the plan looks like. But it does help on our discussions, I think. And I think we need to listen to what we heard, decide what we could do to maybe update that plan. And I would recommend doing that in a work session. And, and for example, kind of like the classrooms, that wasn't their top, that they didn't find that as important. Well, as a board, let's discuss what that means. And if you feel that you really need to have that in the plan, then we need to discuss how do we help educate, your community on why that's so important. And then again, in that next survey, ask them the question again to see if that would help, if that was part of your plan, that if that could help make it successful. So that's where we're at. We need to do some more outreach, and we need to refine the plan based on what we heard.
What kind of timing would you think is appropriate for such a work session?
Yeah, I would say if we could do it in the next 2-3 weeks would be good. We don't have to do it tomorrow, but I also, and I don't want to do it like Anna and I talked about, maybe doing it after this meeting today because you're all there. But really, I think that taking some time to think about what the results said for board members to then become prepared on what their thoughts are. So I'd say in the next 2 weeks would be a good timing for that.
Okay, we will be discussing superintendent evaluation next, and that is required by law by the November 15th. And our next meeting, isn't 7th. Perhaps we could combine these two important items in a special meeting. But we can refine that when we move forward here.
And then Anna, do you want to talk about too, just the efforts to like gain community feedback?
Oh, sure. I'll kind of share. I'm sure you saw the question and answer that went out. I sent an article to the newspaper, very similar to the question and answer, but with pictures, and they said they were willing to do that. And I said I kind of wanted to do this as a series, and I've been talking to staff, people at community admin. What are some questions that keep coming up for you, or even concerns that I restructure as questions to give some more answers? So that'll be coming out in the newspaper. And like I said, I want to do a series to try to, and I'm sending things home right to the parent mailboxes because we knew that that was our group that wasn't, receiving that. We're doing the scavenger hunt, I guess, if you want to call that. The cards are coming today. We have little business cards on them. Recruited people to help me. We're going to have somebody placed in the kitchen. Shannon's going to be in there. She's already kind of putting her list of things, to show people. Bobby and Dave are going to be in the mechanical room, which I was down there yesterday. The boiler was running and it was making a loud clacking noise. And
we arranged to have that right on Monday.
And the guy came yesterday and he's like, "Who wants to come down and work on this?" He said, "Because the pneumatics, it's just
nobody even knows how to do it.
Right? Yeah." So there's going to be somebody there. I've got somebody up on the 3rd floor. And I'm hoping, I need your guys' help too to be in those places, but on the 3rd floor, the ceiling's wide open so people can look up and see, what it looks like inside of the ceiling. And then also going into a high school classroom, the windows, looking at the windows, showing them this is what our windows look like throughout the building. So got that planned. I know I had some other things on there that we're working on, but more just trying to just inundate with information. Greg and Jordan have heard me say this. A friend of mine is at the school board in Minnesota, and he said, "Anna, control the message. Your school board needs to control the message." So all that stuff that's out there, and like they said, derailing the plan, that's what they'll do. They'll attack the plan. They won't attack what's going, what needs to be done, but the plan of it. And so making sure that we control that message that goes out to the community by being in the forefront and making sure that we're in charge of that. So that's where we're at on that piece.
Well, Sheila, I think it's great that we're doing parent teachers conferences up in the room.
That too, yes.
The sad thing, I see how many students are in those rooms and how crowded they are.
Yeah.
You know, because walking into Half-Key's room, for instance, when she has a room full of students, I don't know how they move around in there. I just don't.
And I, that's a good point, because I've heard more than once, and I thought myself, well, how can the classrooms be any more full? Because I had almost 70 kids in my class, and, they were full, but I think we had we had 3 sections of each class. They have 2, so the number of students is still big or potentially bigger than.
That would be something I think I can take pictures of those classrooms and then that can be
Post
pushed out.
put the pictures right there in the classroom. This is what it looks like full.
Yeah.
And Sonia and I are on, well, we're gonna talk about that later, the school construction. But we'll talk about that a little bit and the things that we're doing with that, sending them pictures, trying to get that word out, working with our legislators. There's more than just us. It's like, this is just the seed and it's going out, from there, but. What do you guys?
Well, somebody had asked me about the newspaper, so I'm glad we're doing that. And then another couple of complaints I had was they don't feel like we're reaching a lot of the elderly people because they're not on social media. We've been. That's
We did
somewhere.
go to the, our first was at the 2 o'clock. It's coffee. Much appreciated.
Yeah. Good, I just.
Some of the senior center, but that's
Yeah.
a good point.
Yeah.
Or some type of. But that was. Brought to me that.
Yeah, we were,
Yes.
Lori supposed to get that one pager in there, but I don't know where that, I'll talk
The
to
one
Tasha.
page,
Mhm.
the one pager in the economic development.
Yeah. I'll talk to Kasha. We'll figure that out in the brown bag. I'll mail her. I know that costs money too. I thought that was free to just step in there. Okay.
And I think Aaron did develop that. I thought
Yeah.
it was ready to go, Anna.
Yeah.
Just needs to be.
I
put in.
have that one pager. I'll just make sure that it gets to them.
And one of the things I recommended to Anna is just because there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of different initiatives, I suggested we get on a weekly call and just coordinate, just kind of be coordinating like, okay, who's creating the flyer? Who's doing the social media posts, or what's the messaging for the social media posts? What efforts are we doing? And the weekly check-in just kind of really helps keep that moving forward. So our first one we were looking at Monday at 11. So.
And that way, Jordan's gonna be on that, and Mr. Engel would be on it, Marine, Monica, hopefully Todd, Aaron, people from on that side. I don't know, did Monica not respond yet? I don't know how many, did you? Okay. So.
But just me, good.
Right, no, we were gonna do a facilities committee, but then we thought it may just one of you. Then we don't have to, take the messages or take the minutes, and so that's, we're meeting on Monday, so we'll game plan. Is there anything else that,
Are you gonna show up the science room? And, show people like, this is
Well,
what we have.
I wasn't going to.
This is what we
Right.
can have.
I didn't want to interrupt conferences because those teachers are gonna be in there, so that was one of those reasons that I did, but every student just about, Jordan, would either be going in Cheska's room or in Kayla's room, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so hoping that.
As long as the teachers choose to.
Yeah, the parents choose to come, yeah.
What time are we starting?
Well, it's 4 to 9, and I realize that we'll have to maybe rotate people through, because you'll want to go to your conferences, obviously, and go, up and down our hallways.
I plan on doing mine right now.
Okay, that would be great.
I thought it would be nice if we all were wearing one of those nice new T-shirts from the
the 100 years,
the board members, whoever else.
Okay.
I have one. I haven't bought
I
mine
have
yet,
one.
but I will.
Okay.
You don't have. I'm just saying, I thought that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll
Yeah.
put stickers of a snake coming out.
Yeah, really out there, yeah.
All right,
Is
have we
there-
covered everything?
Yeah, unless, did you guys want to do, you know, I mean, you know what the chiller is, you know, the plumbing, anything.
Can I say something?
Yes, please, Larry.
Speaking of T-shirts, I watched, on the news when Morehead High did their big alumni, or they closed their school, and their school board members had ID badges on. You know, to
Could you
identify
give us
as a
one?
board
Could you know how we could get one of those?
Yeah, the one thing is, you would all just need to have me take your picture before you leave. And we could also might do that.
Okay.
We had talked about people having. Did somebody recommend that?
You know, if they
Was
did, I
that
think
during
that was.
legendary or was
Mhm.
that Lori?
I think it was during the legendary that they said you guys should have them, so then when you talk to people and, hey, you know, you,
We might have leftover business card stock that we.
okay, we'll look and see on that, and we can get some ordered, because I actually, yeah. I'm not gonna tell my secret, I have.
Okay. Good ideas. Anything else on facilities?
No, as long as you guys are okay with that.
No, I don't think I'm ready to take any action on anything.
No. Especially since we know boilers.
That's not real wood. It's not gonna do you any good. Superintendent evaluation. Okay, so as I mentioned, we need to complete Anna's first evaluation by November 15th. We have a whole new job description, which we approved in August, and Maureen has created a, I asked if we could create, so it could all be done digitally rather than copy and paste or fax, people fax or later. Yes, and she's got it, she did a draft of the format that would tie right to Anna's job description. I made some comments on it. I've shared it with Anna. So I'm hoping that those changes will be made and we'll get that out here next week. So this will be our first time using this format and we'll, you know, might not be perfect, but I think you'll find it easy to use and we'll see how it goes. So if you look for that coming out in the next, by mid next week, hopefully, right?
Yep, and then we'll have to come up with a special meeting.
Yeah, why don't we do that on future?
Okay.
Yeah, that's on there, okay? Board self-evaluation.
Okay,
Anna put that I was gonna talk about that, but I'll defer to Marcia. I don't know anything.
Good thing, Marcia.
Yeah, nice she got up.
Oh, you're
unmute
muted.
yourself,
You're muted.
please.
I should have the camera off, is what I should do. Sorry. And I'm so excited that this is recorded. Okay, so when we did our 2-day workshop, one of the things we talked about was how this board framework that was in your manual, that I think you guys have a copy of, is sort of like the roadmap. If the board wants to get better, these are the things that you do and how you do it. So we stop every quarter, October, January, April, and June, and we kind of create a scorecard of where you are now and where we think we might be by the end of the next quarter, and track our progress as we go. So there are 6 objectives in the framework, and we take each one at a time. How many of you remember doing this activity at the board meeting, at the workshop? We went through it and people were like, why are you making us do this? You know, we don't have anything, but you guys have done a lot since that, some with me and a lot even without me prior to. So if you'll take out that document, remember, in order for you to get credit for a column, everything in that column has to be complete. So objective 1, reading through objective 1, who can tell me where you think your score is currently and why?
A vision statement,
See, that was my question too, because I thought we were doing good, and then I'm like, do we have a vision statement? Is that part of our?
Well, a vision mission, we kind of count that as one. So I'm pretty sure you do.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, so that was my question.
So our mission statement is not posted in here. right?
No, we don't have to.
Which I think is too long, but well, we're moving in. We have one. It may need work.
Okay.
We've adopted goals
Uh-huh.
and we have owned the goal development process while working collaboratively with the superintendent.
Uh-huh.
And the next one is the adopted 3 student outcome goals, which we've done, yeah. I thought we were at proficient.
But we have to
What
have
is-
everything done in that column to be proficient. Have we
Right.
got everything done?
Maybe not. Student goal. I think we are, I really do.
I agree. I agree. I think goal number 1 is proficient. You've done a lot of work on there. In order to get to the advanced level, what do you think is the one thing, or maybe 2 things, that you're missing to hit that advanced stage?
Well, I don't have them memorized, I can tell you that.
Okay.
I keep looking at it.
Well, and I think we talked about, we debated about going ahead with a new strategic plan. And we kind of put that on hold, but I feel like now that we've adopted, we've approved, we have goals, student outcome goals, that needs to drive maybe a more refined mission, vision statement. And that's much easier for our board members to memorize. So that the vision that we have may be restated. Even though we already have one, it's probably time to revisit that. Not for a whole strategic plan, but at least a start to a new statement.
In the community.
Yeah, that's usually the big one. And in our later on, we're going to talk about committees, and we're actually going to start building a community engagement committee. So it might not be until June that you would hit that mark that you've been talking to community and staff. I just want you to know that. So in the evaluation, what we do is we look at, because we're using this as your baseline. And because of the work you did before I started coming in, you're going to have an awesome baseline compared to everybody else. But for the next evaluation in January, I would say probably expect to remain the same in this particular piece of the framework, because the biggest piece that you're missing is the community. And I want you to understand that doesn't come until much later. Okay. Any questions on objective 1? Right. So let's take a look at objective 2 and tell me where you think you are.
Now I'm confused on this one. So we received the goal progress measures this morning.
Yep, you did. That's why it was up there on top.
Yep, and then the next one under novice, it says that we have adopted the goal progress measures, which we did not do.
They are on it. Are they on consent agenda?
Yeah, they received them, but you said they
Okay.
don't have to be approved, right? They're just received.
Yeah, they're received.
Oh,
So,
they
but
were-
you adopted your consent agenda, so that will count.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Good, great question.
And I say we're proficient. I think
You
we've
are
got
correct.
Yep.
I agree. And again, next quarter, you're still going to be proficient, because what is it you're going to be missing?
Community engagement.
Community engagement. Okay, let's look at objective 3, monitoring calendar, student outcome goals, and goal progress measures. You just approved your monitoring calendar and consent agenda, right, Anna?
No, that's coming up, cause,
Okay,
yeah,
all right, well, I'm gonna give you credit for that, because I know it's coming.
yeah.
It was in our packet, but we haven't approved
No,
it.
Right.
Accepted, whatever. it is.
Looking on novice, what is the first thing that you say is your stopping point?
Well, we haven't performed a self-evaluation within the previous 12 months, but we're doing that now.
Right.
Superintendent's implementation plan.
I think, I'm gonna go ahead and give you credit for that, because the superintendent kind of had with her goal and goal progress measures and the monitoring report, even though you haven't approved guardrails yet, does have a placeholder for guardrails on it, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I think that will go. Okay, so the difference in partially proficient is the time that you've been in time tracking, 10%. And I'm gonna just count the times since I've been here with you, which have been the last 2 or 3 months, and I know you're above that. You're performing your evaluation using the North Dakota Bee Legendary. You're doing your self-evaluation, and I know you've got to have it done by the 15th, so you're hitting that 45-day mark. I know you're doing that. The last part is the superintendent evaluation on progress towards student outcome goals and student guardrails using information from the monitoring report into the monitoring calendar. That is the one thing that we have not done yet. So that moves you down to how many points?
2.
2. You're still novice, but I want you to understand by next quarter in January, we will be working on the superintendent evaluation assessment tool, and that's going to be a committee that we're going to start next month. So January or April, we will be moving up through that. So I would say by next quarter, January, we will still be at 2, because this is going to take some time for the superintendent. Okay. Let's go to objective 4.
Feels like we've had more than 6 meetings in a month, but last year, 2 years.
Yeah, but by the time we get to that column, you won't.
I don't know, we got a lot going on here.
Anna, when you did your goal progress measures, did you do your monitoring report? Did you do a monitoring report on any of them?
We haven't gotten that far, we had just finished our goal progress, with
Okay,
giving
so, but you've got it on the agenda for today, right?
Okay, we do the monitoring calendar as the next item on there.
Uh-huh.
And we presented on our goal progress measures for.
Okay, but you didn't do an actual report on where you were with reading or math or anything like that yet, right?
No, we did our star reading. Yeah, they presented on star reading, but we didn't break it down into goal
Okay,
1.
all right, then okay, so we'll count that and we'll work on that process, but I'll give you credit for that.
Okay, so, never mind. Okay,
So where do we think we are here? Moving into partially sufficient?
Let's see. Average of 3 hours, average of 5 topics. Yeah, I would say partially proficient, but I think by the time we get to the next one, we could be at proficient, don't you? With keeping our eye out and monitoring some things. Oh, no. No, partially proficient will not come until much later, because if you have looked down at the second checkbox, it all goes around reviewing policies. And we're not going to be doing that until that's something that comes much later in the year. So you are 4, and probably will still be at 4 next quarter. Objective 5, this is going to be an easy one.
Developed those guardrails at our training meeting, but did we really? We haven't
No.
adopted them.
You haven't adopted them yet, and we're going to adopt them in December. So right now you're still at 0, but look how far you're going to jump in January, because we're going to make sure that the guardrails meet all of these things in novice, partially proficient. And if you look at proficient, they've adopted 1 to 5 guardrails. We're going to do that. We've looking at needs assessment. We looked at data when we started designing those. All board members and the superintendent, I hope we would all agree to that. And so I would say by the next quarter, you would be up at 13. And the whole system is a 100-point scale. I'm sorry, I should have said that earlier. So the last one, objective 6. This is one that I can tell you, we haven't started the 2-way communication yet. We will probably be there in April. So you'd still be at 0 and 0. So that's 24, 25, 26. So that puts you at 30 points right now. For a baseline is absolutely amazing. And for January, we estimate that you will be at 43%, which getting halfway through is right on target for where I would expect you to be, getting close to, that 50%. Your percent on student outcome goals, I would say on average this quarter was probably about 25%, which is amazing, because you have to take the whole cumulative piece, with everything. So what are your thoughts on this evaluation? Do you think 30 points right now and a goal for 43 is a true reflection of where you are?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, and you guys are making amazing progress. I will let you know that I'm going to complete this and send it to Anna. And Sonia, I might go ahead and just send it to you via DocuSign so you can sign it. I'm not going to send it to all board members to sign, because I think that could be perceived as Open Meetings Act violation, everybody getting communication. So I'm just going to send it to Sonia, and I am sending this in to North Dakota Department of Instruction, just because not that they're tracking, monitoring, asking, not like they're sticking their nose into it. They just need some documentation for their grant money, and Kirsten is actually going to use some of this at the North Dakota School Board Association to talk about boards that are B-legendary and the progress that they're making. She did ask us, where are they in terms of the framework and in terms of adult behavior change? And I would say over the last few months, the biggest adult behavior change that you are modeling for more boards than you ever have imagined, is the adult behavior in terms of your agenda. And how you've prioritized your agenda and moved things around. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
Yes. We would.
Yeah. Yeah. Your commitment to this process is a role model for other school districts to follow. And I throw your name out frequently. I'm not going to show them this video because it looks like I just rolled out of bed, and I did.
But it will be in public on our website, so.
Okay. The only place they're going to run into me is maybe at the Angry Beaver and the Sweet Shop. So
Meat raffle. Yeah.
Meat raffle.
Oh yeah, got to get me a meat raffle. Okay. And our next step is going to be working on guardrails and guardrail progress measures, and I anticipate having them to the board for an adoption in December.
All right, so consensus is that we agree with the self-evaluation of 30 points, and we'll set a goal for 43 or more in January.
Yes.
Okay. The monitoring calendar is next, so they just need to approve that.
Yes. And what we do in the monitoring calendar, I think it's in your folder. This is the folder that we're going to leave in the room just so you can have it to refer back to rather than try to remember to bring it every time. What we do with the goals and the goal progress measures, we chart them out to when we're going to bring a monitoring report. And in that monitoring report, you're going to see past performance, where we are currently, where we want to be in the annual target, where we want to be at the deadline. And this is your tracking tool to ask Anna, are we on track for meeting our annual target on NDSA? Looking at different things. I will be doing some coaching on the difference between asking technical questions versus strategic questions in those monitoring reports. And that's where we want to start spending the large majority of our time, is in this analysis and talking about it. So if you look on the monitoring calendar, what monitoring report can you expect for November?
Yeah.
Which one?
Math.
Math. So I like to do one goal a month. You know, some people are like, oh, we're going to do them all. I'm like, oh no, your board will get data drunk and then they won't remember anything. So we're very specific. We do one goal a month because we want to go in depth with the data and the discussion. And if you do too many, the numbers, have y'all ever been data drunk before? I think I've asked that question. Where you just get numbers after numbers after numbers, and then it all just becomes a blur. We want these discussions to be very, very specific. We also have on your monitoring calendar the dates of your board self-evaluation. I added some other things, and we have months to review our guardrails once those are established and done. So all we need, if you don't have any questions, or if you have questions, I'll be happy to entertain them at this time. Or Anna will be happy to entertain them at this time.
I'll break down the reading into the different goal progress measurings because we just did that.
How come some of the goals say GMP and some say GPM? Is that a typo?
That's my fault.
Okay.
That's a misprint. I will, if you go ahead and approve, if you want to approve them, say, I move that we approve them with edits as requested.
Okay, and on the top second row, when it says month and then student outcome goals, and then on this GPM.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
The heading for the guardrails column says CPMs, guardrails CPMs.
Okay, I will make those two edits.
And it should be GPMs, both guardrails, full progress measure. Guardrail.
That's because in the other state that this is modeled from caused them constraints. So I just didn't catch that. So.
Right, so you do want us to take action on the monitoring calendar, and the motion I'm seeking then is to approve the monitoring calendar with the edits we've discussed.
Yes.
Their motion. Nagel moves. Is there a second? Day seconds. Is there any further discussion on the monitoring calendar? Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Sire,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Heimbach,
Yes.
Nagel,
Yes.
Meal.
Yes, motion passes 5-0.
And Sonia, I think what I'm gonna do via DocuSign is send it to both you and your vice president to sign via DocuSign. That way we have more than one person showing agreement and we don't have a quorum in the DocuSign.
Okay. All right, and that's Monica, right?
Mhm.
Oh, you had to see minutes once.
That's true.
Maybe twice. Okay, so ad hoc board committee in your packet only had a cover sheet and it said that I was gonna talk about it. So, Marsha?
Okay, so as you saw, a lot of this work in the board evaluation requires there are three big buckets that we work on this first year. And some of them it's also at the request of the superintendent evaluation, looking at the current evaluation tool, which I believe is a modified version of the North Dakota School Board Association.
Marsha, can I interrupt you a moment?
Sure.
You're cutting out every, once every 5 seconds or so. I don't know if it's your microphone or something, but try to make an adjustment. It's hard to hear sometimes.
Okay.
She thinks it's on our side because Lori was also cutting off.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, as long as my face doesn't freeze with this beauty look I've got going today. All right. So when we talked about the superintendent evaluation, I believe it's North Dakota School Board modified version. Is that correct? And part of the evaluation tool is like looking at, are you holding the superintendent accountable for movement on these goals? So the first ad hoc committee, and when we have committees, this is what they do. Committees have a specific purpose. They have a time frame to get their work done, and they have a product that they are to produce to the board. So the first committee is going to be Superintendent Evaluation Committee. And the purpose is going to be reviewing the current evaluation system and modifying it to incorporate the Be Legendary requirements. And then in February, they will be bringing this product to the board. So we don't want to have a quorum on this committee. It's a couple of people, whoever has a burning interest, desire to work on this. And of course, Anna will be a member of that committee because it concerns her evaluation. We will bring it to the board in February to approve in March to use for the 25-26 school year. Because it would be very unfair in March to throw a new tool in at Anna and start using it immediately. Okay. The second committee is the community engagement that we talked about. This ad hoc committee will be facing the charge of looking at all of the components, the guardrails, the goals, the goal progress measures, guard progress measures, and designing a community presentation with a script. And I have some samples that you can utilize to where board members will be going out and discussing some of these things and some of the possible components of your strategic plan, maybe going in there as well, so we can double dip, and bringing back to the board in June a platform for community engagement. The final ad hoc committee is on board operating procedures and policy review. Remember, we saw that in the evaluation. That will start in July. And the charge for this committee is to bring recommendations to the board of policies that can be delegated to the superintendent, policies that the board must maintain under their shadowing, identifying policies that align to your goals, and looking at, do you currently have a board operating procedures manual? Okay, and developing a board operating procedures manual. And they will bring that back to the board in September. And the board operating procedures are wonderful. If you get a new board member, one of the first things you do is say, here's our operating procedures. These are our procedures. This is why we do those procedures. And so that puts you at the end of your first year of Be Legendary to have everything complete. So my ask is for board members to think about your top two. Everybody's got to work on a committee. Sorry. The top two committees that interest you the most, email those to Sonia. And then Sonia and I will get together and we will put people on these committees. If you have, if you have something that the time, not necessarily the topic is your first choice, but the time frame, November to March, April to June, July to September meets your personal needs, just let her know. And then at the next board meeting, we'll make those committee assignments and get started.
Marcia, to recap what you've said, just the bullet points of these three committees and the time frame, because I think we understood what you said, but you were cutting out. So
I'll tell you what, I'll write that up in some bullet points and I'll send that to Anna and she can send them out to the board with that request.
That's what I want. Any questions or anything else on that? Is that it, Marcia, for that topic?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Required. Next item on the approve the Sire plumbing bill, which I presume that it's appropriate for Brian to recuse from voting on this, but as you know, he did a little bit of work for the school.
No, I only
Sold a product, there we go, sold a LP replacement drinking.
That's the third door.
Okay, for full transparency, the bill from Sire Plumbing and Heating was for $1,375.85 for a drinking cooler and a toilet. I would entertain a motion payment of Sire Plumbing. Heimbach moves. Is there a second? Second. Days seconds. Any discussion? Any discussion? What was it?
That's what I was.
Didn't know motion, so approve motion to.
Approve payment of the bill to Sire Plumbing and Heating for $1,375.85. Acceptable? I got that right. With that motion.
Oh, if it's not, you're on the hook for a drinking
Okay.
donation.
Yeah, so what happens if you don't approve this stuff? It's
Oh,
already-
why don't we cross that bridge when we get to it? It's coming.
Okay.
Two people already voted it, or are already
I was
voted, but
just
they can.
curious.
You'll second that? I have Dave.
I did.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Nagel,
Yes.
Heimbach.
Yes.
Day.
Yes.
Do I call Ryan or
No.
does he just?
No, don't call.
Sonia, Neil.
Yes. Motion passes 4-0 with Sire abstaining.
Now we're all good.
There might not, we can raise donation. All right, North Dakota School Construction Coalition.
I guess we can present it together, but Sonia and I have been asked to join a group from North Dakota, and I included in your packet who all is on that group, and Sonia's presenting the School Board Association, and there might be some other things that we'll have to make trips out to Bismarck to present, but it was just more for your information to know that we'll be representing our school and the school board and what we're going through, and hopefully solving some, I don't know if we'll solve anything, but at least we make ourselves heard, right?
Well, the word that you used is the word that I have. Because this represents,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this board has not authorized us to represent, and we're not spending any money. We are part of a group of like school districts that meeting and discussing issues and seeking solutions. I don't know that we really need approval. I don't want to act like we're representing Oaks Public School, but we are bringing our knowledge and experience to this group. Do you feel like we should have some sort of a motion of support for us to participate in this?
That's what I was gonna say, Sonia. Instead of represent Oaks, just say that they participate on behalf of Oaks.
Okay. I would almost feel better if we had some action, and it's not like we're out there, you know, we're not committing resources other than our time. You're just
Brainstorming knowledge.
But I would feel a little better if this board at least acknowledged that we are part of this and that you're aware of it.
Or maybe, Sonia, just participate.
Okay, so, but you would agree that it would be appropriate for the board to act, to at least acknowledge that we're participating in this?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Just an awareness.
Mhm.
So,
I'll make a motion that we approve your guys' participation. Construction Coalition.
Nagel moves to approve Superintendent Sell and Board President Neal participating in the North Dakota School Construction Coalition. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Yes.
Nagel,
Yes.
Heimbach,
Yes, motion passes. And we are approved to participate. Okay, special meetings. So we need to have a special meeting prior to November 15th. Gloria's gone now, so we can't confer with her calendar. Probably should have done that while she was on. Sheila, look at you. She already sent me her two.
Otherwise I would have forgot. So, you know, I just gotta do it.
Okay, so are we thinking of Friday morning for items? That would be superintendent and facilities. What did we call it? You had a really good word. Board work session on facilities. Friday, so we take on. Isn't that
Yes.
the EL, and the following is North Dakota School Board, so those two are out.
Here I was thinking the sooner the better would be.
I'm okay with coming in those days. I mean, if you guys are okay, that's up to you. If there's no school on the 3rd, that's a Holy Happy Friday.
I was just thinking that the sooner the better for moving forward with the facilities.
But you also
Hard
have
to
to
get
have
the
time to get the
superintendent,
superintendent out to you. Reviewed. I mean, I can do other days of the week as well, but the Thursday and Friday, the 26th and 27th, I'll be at school boards and some of the others will as well. I don't like Monday morning meetings. Wednesday the 1st.
That was me.
Is that okay with you, Brian?
Yes.
Wednesday the 1st at 7 AM?
Okay.
Okay, so we're setting our special meeting for two topics, superintendent eval and facilities work session for Wednesday, 11/1 at 7 AM. And hopefully.
Yeah.
So I have,
At 7 AM. I think I'm gonna be on an airplane, but I might be able to jump in. If not, Sue will take it. I do want to let you know, Sue has been incognito over the last 2 weeks. She took her trip to New England and came back with COVID.
Oh.
So, she has been recouping from that.
did you say?
Oh, no, that's a board agenda plan.
Oh, okay. Okay, so pending Lori Christensen's ability to be there.
And
Would you- Yeah. So would you check with her
Yep,
as soon as
I
you
just sent her
can
a text.
and let us know? Okay, so then our next regular meeting is Friday, November 17th at 7 AM.
7 AM.
AM. Central Time. And when do we change our clocks?
Gosh, hold on, I'll find out. Hold on. Alexa, when does the time change?
November 5th.
November the 5th.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the order? Can we start having breakfast at these meetings?
Yeah.
You know, they did that at OEI, I thought it was great. Breakfast sandwiches for
No, I'm
Tuesday.
sorry.
It was warm.
Nobody's.
BYO.
Emails.
All right, I'll declare the meeting adjourned at 9:11 AM.